Most men believe power comes from force, noise, or emotional intensity. They are wrong. The truly dangerous man is not the one who shouts, threatens, or reacts. The truly dangerous man is the one who feels everything and reveals nothing. History does not fear the emotional. It fears the unreadable. When you react, you expose yourself. When you remain unaffected, you become opaque, and what cannot be read cannot be controlled. This is not about suppressing emotion out of weakness. It is about mastering it for dominance. The moment others realize they cannot provoke you, predict you, or disturb you, the balance of power shifts permanently. This is how influence is built. This is how enemies hesitate. This is how authority is born. 1. Reaction is a confession. Every reaction you display is a disclosure, not of facts, but of weakness, priority, fear, desire, or insecurity. Men believe they are responding to events, but in reality, they are revealing themselves. The world does not need access to your thoughts if it can study your reactions. Anger announces where you feel threatened. Defensiveness exposes what you fear might be true. Excessive excitement signals hunger and impatience. Even justification reveals doubt. Nothing is neutral once you react. You think you are responding to others, but you are educating them about you. Those who understand power never rush to respond because they understand this principle deeply. In every interaction, there is an invisible negotiation taking place. Who is composed? Who is unsettled? Who needs validation? Who seeks control? The first person to react emotionally has already surrendered information. They have shown where pressure works. From that moment onward, they can be pushed again in the same place. This is why remaining unaffected is not emotional suppression. It is strategic restraint. In politics, the man who responds impulsively to provocation loses credibility. In war, the army that reacts to feints exhausts itself before the real strike arrives. In relationships, the person who reacts emotionally to every slight becomes predictable, easy to provoke, easy to control. The principle is universal because human nature does not change across domains. Reaction is not strength. Reaction is exposure. Most people misunderstand what it means to be unaffected. They imagine numbness, coldness, or indifference to life. This is shallow thinking. The unaffected man feels fully. He simply refuses to broadcast those feelings. He understands that emotion is energy, and energy must be conserved and deployed intentionally. He does not deny emotion. He delays expression until it serves him. This delay creates space. In that space, others lose balance. Silence is especially powerful because humans are uncomfortable with it. When you do not react, people begin to fill the void with their own assumptions. They imagine motives. They invent explanations. They project their fears and intentions onto you. This projection is useful. It reveals more about them than any question ever could. While they speculate, you observe. While they speak, you learn. You gain leverage without lifting a finger. Understand this clearly. People test you constantly, often unconsciously. They say things to see if you will flinch. They delay to see if you will chase. They criticize to see if you will defend. Every test is an attempt to map your inner terrain. The moment you react automatically, the map becomes accurate. When you remain unaffected, the map becomes useless. They no longer know where to push. This uncertainty makes them cautious. Caution is the beginning of your power. Those who react quickly often justify it as honesty or authenticity. This is a comforting lie. What they call honesty is usually a lack of discipline. What they call authenticity is often emotional impulsiveness. Power does not come from expressing everything you feel. Power comes from choosing what is revealed and what remains concealed. The unaffected man understands that transparency benefits others more than it benefits him. This does not mean you never respond, it means you respond deliberately. There is a difference between reaction and response. Reaction is automatic and emotional. Response is measured and strategic. Reaction gives control away. Response reclaims it. The unaffected man pauses not because he is confused, but because he is calculating. He understands that time is an ally. With time, emotion cools, perspective sharpens, and mistakes are avoided. When you react emotionally, you invite escalation. When you remain unaffected, you force the other party to escalate alone. This imbalance is psychologically uncomfortable for them. They become louder, more dramatic, more revealing. Meanwhile, your stillness becomes authority. People assume depth where there is silence. They assume confidence where there is restraint. Even when this assumption is wrong, it works in your favor. Many men sabotage themselves by trying to be understood. They explain too much. They defend too quickly. They clarify every misunderstanding. In doing so, they teach others exactly how to move them. The unaffected man does not rush to correct perceptions. He understands that perception itself is a battlefield. Sometimes allowing others to misunderstand you gives you strategic cover. It keeps them guessing. And guessing weakens action. You must also recognize that emotional reactions rarely improve outcomes. They feel satisfying in the moment, but they reduce long-term influence. The man who explodes may feel powerful for seconds, but he loses respect for years. The man who remains composed builds quiet authority that compounds over time. Others begin to self-regulate around him. They choose their words more carefully. They hesitate before provoking. This is not fear created by force. It is fear created by unpredictability and control. The less you react, the more others reveal themselves trying to move you. They show you their insecurities, their intentions, their desperation for response. Every extra word they speak is data. Every emotional push they attempt is a confession of what they value and what they fear losing. You gain intelligence without effort simply by not reacting. This is why reaction is a confession. It tells the world where you are soft, where you are hungry, where you are threatened. Remaining unaffected closes your mouth and opens your eyes. It shifts the balance from emotional exchange to strategic observation. And once you see clearly, you are no longer at the mercy of those who react blindly. Master this lesson first. Without it, no other form of power lasts. 2. Emotional control is strategic superiority. Most men believe emotional control is a personality trait. They think some people are naturally calm and others are naturally reactive. This belief is convenient, and like most convenient beliefs, it is false. Emotional control is not temperament, it is training. It is a practiced advantage. Those who lack it are not unlucky, they are undisciplined. And discipline, more than talent or intention, is what separates the powerful from the disposable. Strategic superiority begins where emotion ends its rule. This does not mean the absence of feeling, it means emotion no longer sits in the command chair. The man ruled by emotion is always fighting the last battle in his head. He reacts to what just happened, not to what is unfolding. He is dragged into arguments he did not choose, conflicts that do not serve him, and decisions made under pressure rather than purpose. Meanwhile, the man with emotional control operates one level above the moment. He is not inside the storm, he is watching it. Power favors clarity. Clarity cannot exist where emotion dominates. Anger narrows vision. Fear accelerates bad decisions. Excitement leads to overcommitment. Pride blinds. The emotionally reactive man is constantly compromising his own position, often believing he is standing his ground. In truth, he is surrendering control to circumstance. The emotionally controlled man does the opposite. He does not deny emotion, but he refuses to let it dictate timing or direction. In every competitive environment, emotional control creates asymmetry. When others feel urgency, he feels patience. When others feel insulted, he feels curiosity. When others feel panic, he feels focus. This asymmetry is devastating because it turns chaos into advantage. Those around him rush. They demand resolution. They push for reaction. He waits. He observes. He lets their instability work against them. This is not kindness. It is strategy. History consistently rewards those who can endure emotional discomfort without acting on it. Leaders who could tolerate uncertainty without rushing decisions outlasted those who needed immediate relief. Commanders who resisted provocation preserved their forces, while others exhausted themselves chasing distractions. Even in ordinary life, the individual who does not need instant emotional satisfaction accumulates leverage quietly while others burn it. Understand this clearly. Emotional control is not passive, it is active restraint. It requires effort. It requires awareness. It requires the ability to sit with discomfort without needing to resolve it immediately. Most people cannot do this. They seek emotional discharge. They want to speak, explain, react, justify. They confuse expression with strength. In reality, the need to express is often the need to relieve pressure, and relieving pressure too early destroys strategic advantage. When you control your emotions, you control the pace of interaction. Pace determines outcome. Those who feel emotionally compelled rush conversations, decisions, and confrontations. Those who are emotionally disciplined slow everything down. Slowness frustrates emotional opponents. Frustration causes mistakes. Mistakes reveal weakness. This chain repeats endlessly. The emotionally controlled man rarely needs to attack. Others unravel on their own. There is also a psychological effect that cannot be ignored. Humans assign authority to those who appear least affected by events. Calmness under pressure is interpreted as competence, even when no evidence is present. This perception alone elevates status. People defer to those who seem unshaken because they assume depth of understanding. Emotional control creates the illusion of foresight. In power dynamics, perception often matters more than truth. Many men sabotage themselves by trying to prove confidence emotionally. They raise their voice. They assert dominance verbally. They react strongly to challenges to show strength. This behavior achieves the opposite effect. It signals insecurity. True confidence does not need demonstration. It is implied through restraint. The man who does not react appears certain of his position. He does not need to convince. He expects others to adjust. Emotional control also protects you from manipulation. Manipulators rely on emotional hooks. They provoke anger to gain attention. They induce guilt to gain compliance. They create urgency to bypass judgment. None of this works on someone who does not emotionally spike on command. When you remain emotionally steady, manipulation becomes expensive and ineffective. Those who attempt it must escalate, revealing intent and weakening their own position. This discipline must be internal before it can be external. You cannot fake emotional control consistently. It is revealed in micro moments: tone, timing, silence, the absence of unnecessary explanation. These signals cannot be manufactured without genuine inner regulation. This is why emotional control is rare. It requires daily resistance against impulse. It requires the willingness to feel without acting. The man who masters this becomes difficult to defeat, not because he is aggressive, but because he is stable. Stability outlasts intensity. Intensity burns bright and fades. Stability compounds. Over time, people stop testing those who do not react. They conserve their energy for easier targets. This is how emotional control quietly reshapes the social environment around you. Strategic superiority does not announce itself. It is felt indirectly, in the hesitation of others, in the caution of rivals, in the respect of those who cannot explain why they listen to you. Emotional control creates this effect without noise. It does not need validation. It does not seek approval. It simply waits while others expose themselves. If you cannot control your emotions, someone else will use them against you. This is not a moral statement. It is a law of power. The world does not reward emotional honesty. It rewards emotional discipline. Master this, and you no longer fight on equal ground. You fight on higher ground, where fewer can reach you. 3. Indifference destroys manipulation. Manipulation survives on one essential condition: emotional engagement. Without it, manipulation has no leverage. Every manipulative tactic, no matter how subtle or sophisticated, depends on your willingness to react, explain, defend, or emotionally invest. The moment you remove that engagement, the entire structure collapses. This is why indifference is not weakness. It is one of the most disruptive forces in human interaction. Most people think manipulation looks dramatic. They imagine coercion, threats, or obvious pressure. In reality, manipulation is quiet and ordinary. It appears as guilt, urgency, flattery, provocation, or the promise of approval. It enters conversations disguised as concern, curiosity, or humor. Its goal is always the same: to pull an emotional response from you so that your behavior can be steered. Once emotion is triggered, reasoning weakens and control shifts away from you. Indifference breaks this mechanism at the source. When you do not emotionally engage, the manipulator loses feedback. Without feedback, they cannot adjust their approach. They do not know which tactic is working, which angle is effective, or whether they are making progress at all. This uncertainty frustrates them. Frustration forces escalation. Escalation reveals intent. What was hidden becomes obvious. In this way, indifference exposes manipulation more effectively than confrontation ever could. Understand that indifference does not mean silence in all cases. It means selective engagement. You respond only when it serves you, not when it is demanded. The manipulator expects reaction on their schedule. Indifference denies them this control. It shifts the rhythm of interaction away from their design and back into your hands. When you do respond, it feels deliberate, measured, and unpredictable. This unpredictability is destabilizing. One of the most common manipulative tactics is provocation. Insults, sarcasm, disrespect, or subtle undermining are used to pull you into an emotional response. The goal is not the insult itself. The goal is your reaction. When you respond emotionally, you confirm that the provocation worked. You also reveal where your ego is sensitive. Indifference robs the provocation of meaning. Without reaction, the insult falls flat. The manipulator is left exposed, having attempted aggression without effect. Another tactic is urgency. Manipulators create artificial deadlines, emotional pressure, or a sense of crisis to bypass your judgment. They rely on your discomfort with delay. Indifference introduces pause. Pause restores clarity. When you do not rush to relieve emotional tension, urgency loses power. The manipulator becomes impatient. Impatience causes errors. Errors give you leverage. Guilt is another favored weapon. It works only if you emotionally accept responsibility for feelings that are not yours. Indifference breaks this loop by refusing emotional ownership. You acknowledge facts without absorbing blame. You listen without internalizing obligation. This calm separation confuses those who expect compliance through emotional weight. They may accuse you of coldness. This accusation is itself a confession of their failed strategy. Many people fear indifference because they associate it with loss of connection or social punishment. They believe that not reacting will make them seem weak, detached, or unlikable. This fear is precisely what manipulators exploit. In reality, indifference does not eliminate connection. It filters it. It separates genuine interaction from emotional extraction. Those who value you for who you are remain. Those who value you for how easily you can be moved drift away. This is not loss. It is purification. Indifference also protects you from overexposure. The more you emotionally explain yourself, the more material you provide for future manipulation. Every justification can be used against you later. Every emotional confession becomes a pressure point. The indifferent man speaks less, not because he has nothing to say, but because he understands the cost of unnecessary disclosure. He treats personal information as leverage, not currency. There is a deeper psychological effect at work as well. Humans are unsettled by those they cannot emotionally read. We are conditioned to expect reaction. When it does not come, discomfort arises. This discomfort often drives people to reveal more than they intended. They overtalk, they escalate, they test boundaries. In doing so, they expose their strategies openly. Indifference turns their curiosity into self-disclosure. This is why indifference is often misinterpreted as arrogance or superiority. It is neither. It is self-possession. It signals that you do not require external validation to remain stable. This alone shifts power dynamics. People adjust their behavior around those who do not emotionally depend on them. Respect grows not from fear, but from the recognition that influence has limits. Manipulators eventually abandon targets who do not respond. The effort becomes inefficient. They move toward easier ground, where emotional reactions are plentiful and predictable. This is one of the quiet benefits of indifference. You are not constantly fighting manipulation. You are removing yourself from its reach altogether. Indifference is not cruelty. It is economy. It conserves emotional energy for battles worth fighting. It denies free access to your inner world. It ensures that when you do engage, it is intentional and controlled. This makes every response heavier, more meaningful, and more impactful. When you master indifference, you no longer need to defend yourself constantly. You no longer need to explain your boundaries. Your behavior establishes them. Manipulation cannot survive where emotional hooks find no purchase. This is why indifference destroys manipulation, not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. 4. Predictability is weakness. Power begins to erode the moment others can anticipate you. Predictability gives people a map of your behavior, and once a map exists, strategy against you becomes simple. Most men do not realize how predictable they are. They believe consistency is strength, and in principle it is, but emotional consistency is different. Emotional predictability turns you into a machine that others can operate with minimal effort. When people know how you will react, they no longer fear consequences. If they know you will always explain yourself, they will accuse you carelessly. If they know you will always defend your ego, they will provoke you for leverage. If they know you will always rush to fix discomfort, they will create discomfort deliberately. Predictability removes uncertainty, and uncertainty is the root of caution. Without caution, aggression grows. Most predictability is emotional, not behavioral. You may change your words or actions, but if your emotional responses remain the same, nothing has changed. People do not study what you say. They study how you react under pressure. They watch what angers you, what excites you, what makes you defensive, and what makes you retreat. Once these patterns are observed, they are repeated. The unaffected man disrupts this process by breaking emotional patterns. He does not react the same way twice, simply because the stimulus is similar. Sometimes he responds, sometimes he delays, sometimes he remains silent. This variability is not randomness, it is control. It keeps others uncertain. Uncertainty forces restraint. Restraint limits how far others are willing to push. Predictability also weakens negotiation. When the other side knows your emotional breaking point, they can wait you out or press until you fold. When they do not know, they must proceed cautiously. Caution costs time, energy, and confidence. Every concession they delay strengthens your position. The emotionally unpredictable man holds leverage without confrontation. Many men misunderstand this lesson and attempt to appear mysterious by withholding everything. This fails because it becomes a new form of predictability. Total silence, constant detachment, or rigid coldness becomes a pattern of its own. True unpredictability comes from selective engagement. You speak when it serves you. You stay silent when it does not. Your behavior remains principled, but your emotional visibility is inconsistent by design. There is also a social dimension to predictability. Groups instinctively test new members to locate boundaries. They apply pressure, humor, criticism, and challenges. Those who respond consistently are categorized quickly. Those who do not are treated carefully. The unaffected man delays classification. Because he is difficult to place, he is approached with respect or caution. Both serve him. Predictability invites manipulation because it simplifies planning. If someone knows exactly how to move you, they no longer need power themselves. They borrow yours by triggering your reactions. Unpredictability breaks this loop. It forces others to reveal intent through repeated attempts. Each attempt costs them credibility and energy while costing you nothing. Emotional predictability also damages authority. Leaders who react emotionally in consistent ways become predictable to subordinates. They are managed upward without realizing it. Information is filtered. Situations are framed to provoke desired reactions. Over time, the leader believes he is in control while actually responding to emotional cues set by others. The unaffected leader avoids this trap by remaining unreadable. This does not mean acting erratically or emotionally unstable. Chaos is not power, discipline is. The unpredictability discussed here is internal. It lies in your refusal to be emotionally automated. You remain steady in principle but flexible in expression. This distinction separates strength from instability. People often demand emotional predictability from others because it makes them feel safe. They want to know how you will react so they can act without risk. Refusing to provide this comfort unsettles them. They may label you difficult, cold, or distant. These labels are attempts to regain predictability by pressuring you into familiar patterns. Do not comply. Over time, unpredictability creates space. People approach you more carefully. They think before speaking. They hesitate before provoking. They plan before acting. This hesitation is power in its purest form. It does not require threats, dominance, or force. It arises naturally when others cannot calculate you easily. Predictability is weakness because it removes mystery, and mystery limits aggression. The unaffected man understands that being slightly unreadable is not manipulation. It is protection. It preserves leverage. It keeps you one step ahead in every interaction without ever needing to announce superiority. Break emotional patterns. Refuse automation. Let others wonder. In that uncertainty, your strength grows quietly while theirs diminishes. 5. Detachment preserves authority. Authority does not disappear loudly. It erodes quietly through emotional overexposure, unnecessary explanation, and visible agitation. Most men lose authority not because they lack competence, but because they cannot regulate how much of themselves they reveal under pressure. Detachment is what seals authority. Without it, authority leaks away piece by piece. When you are emotionally attached to outcomes, opinions, or validation, you become vulnerable to pressure. People sense this immediately. They may not articulate it, but they feel it. The man who needs agreement, respect, or understanding begins to chase it. Chasing reverses hierarchy. Authority belongs to the one who does not need to convince. The moment you try too hard to be respected, you signal that respect is not guaranteed. Detachment does not mean disengagement. It means non-attachment to emotional outcomes. You still act, you still decide, you still enforce boundaries. But your inner stability does not depend on how others react. This independence is the foundation of authority. People trust those who do not appear shaken by resistance. They defer to those who do not crumble under disagreement. Consider how quickly authority dissolves when emotion becomes visible. A leader who becomes angry appears threatened. A leader who becomes defensive appears uncertain. A leader who over-explains appears insecure. Even when their reasoning is correct, emotional display undermines perception. Authority is not judged by logic alone, it is judged by composure. Detachment preserves composure under strain. Most men believe showing emotion makes them relatable. In positions of authority, this is often false. Relatability may invite closeness, but it rarely commands respect. Authority requires distance. Distance allows clarity. Detachment creates that distance without cruelty. It communicates that you are not governed by the emotional tides of the room. When you are detached, you do not personalize resistance. Opposition does not feel like an attack. Disagreement does not feel like disrespect. Criticism does not feel like humiliation. This emotional insulation allows you to respond with precision instead of reflex. Precision strengthens authority because it demonstrates control. People follow those who appear in control of themselves first. Attachment creates urgency. Urgency creates mistakes. The emotionally attached man rushes to correct perceptions, to defend reputation, to restore comfort. In doing so, he hands control to whoever can create discomfort. Detachment breaks this cycle. When discomfort does not move you, others lose the ability to steer you through emotional pressure. Authority is also preserved through consistency of presence. Emotional fluctuations destabilize presence. One day calm, the next agitated. One moment confident, the next reactive. People begin to adjust their behavior around your moods instead of your principles. This is not authority, it is volatility. Detachment stabilizes presence. It keeps your demeanor steady regardless of circumstance. Stability invites trust. Trust reinforces authority. There is also a strategic element many overlook. Detachment forces others to take responsibility for their own emotions. When you do not absorb their anxiety, anger, or frustration, it remains with them. They must manage it themselves. This subtle shift increases your authority because you are no longer carrying emotional weight that does not belong to you. You become lighter. They become burdened. Emotionally attached leaders are easily manipulated. Praise inflates them. Criticism deflates them. Silence unsettles them. Detachment makes these tactics ineffective. When praise does not intoxicate you and criticism does not destabilize you, your authority becomes difficult to undermine. People stop trying to move you emotionally because the effort produces no result. Detachment also sharpens decision-making. Decisions made to satisfy emotional needs are rarely optimal. They prioritize comfort over outcome. Detachment allows you to choose what is effective rather than what feels good. This creates a reputation for sound judgment. Over time, people defer decisions to those whose judgment appears unclouded by emotion. Authority grows from this deference. Many fear detachment because they confuse it with coldness or isolation. In truth, detachment creates respect, not distance. It signals maturity. It suggests that you can handle pressure without becoming erratic. This quality attracts responsibility. People entrust serious matters to those who do not panic. There is a quiet confidence in detachment that cannot be imitated. It is felt in how you listen without reacting, how you pause before speaking, how you allow tension to exist without rushing to dissolve it. This calm unsettles emotionally driven individuals. They interpret it as strength because it is strength. Authority is not asserted through force. It is sustained through self-command. Detachment is the mechanism of that self-command. It prevents emotional hijacking. It preserves clarity. It limits exploitation. Without detachment, authority is temporary and fragile. With it, authority becomes stable and enduring. If you want to maintain authority, stop emotionally investing in outcomes you cannot control. Stop reacting to every challenge. Stop explaining yourself to those who are not entitled to explanation. Detach internally while remaining decisive externally. This balance is rare. And rarity is what makes authority visible. Detachment does not make you less human. It makes you less manageable. And those who cannot manage you are forced to respect you. 6. The unaffected man sets the tempo. In every interaction, someone controls the pace. Most men never realize this, yet tempo decides outcomes more often than force or intelligence. Whoever controls timing controls pressure, and whoever controls pressure controls behavior. The unaffected man understands this instinctively. He does not rush because he is not emotionally compelled to. His calm allows him to dictate when things move and when they stall. Emotion accelerates time. Anxiety demands resolution. Anger demands response. Excitement demands action. The emotionally reactive man feels time closing in on him, even when no real deadline exists. He acts prematurely to relieve internal discomfort. This relief feels like control, but it is surrender. He has allowed emotion to set the tempo instead of intention. The unaffected man experiences the same emotional signals, but he does not obey them. He allows discomfort to exist without acting on it. This creates delay. Delay creates advantage. When others rush, they reveal priorities. They show what they want quickly and what they fear losing. The unaffected man learns simply by waiting. His patience becomes a silent interrogation. Control of tempo unsettles people. Humans are conditioned to expect reciprocity in timing. If they speak, they expect response. If they push, they expect resistance. When response is delayed or withheld, anxiety rises. The other party begins to fill the silence. They speak more than planned. They negotiate against themselves. They attempt to regain control by escalating emotionally. Each escalation weakens their position. This is why the unaffected man rarely needs to dominate overtly. His stillness does the work. While others hurry to stabilize emotions, he remains steady. This steadiness shifts the psychological center of gravity toward him. People unconsciously align their pace to his. Conversations slow, decisions pause, the emotional temperature drops. Control me gratis quietly. In negotiation, tempo is decisive. The party that needs closure loses leverage. The unaffected man does not seek closure for emotional comfort. He allows negotiations to stretch. He tolerates ambiguity. This tolerance forces the other side to make concessions simply to end uncertainty. They call back, they revise offers, they justify themselves. All of this happens without him demanding anything. In conflict, tempo determines escalation. Emotional individuals rush into confrontation, believing speed equals strength. In reality, speed often signals loss of control. The unaffected man slows conflict down. He refuses to match intensity. This refusal frustrates aggressors. They either exhaust themselves or expose their true motives. Both outcomes benefit him. Tempo control also applies internally. When you are unaffected, you do not rush your own decisions. You do not act to satisfy pride or impatience. You allow time to refine judgment. Many errors are not errors of intelligence, but of timing. Acting too soon, speaking too quickly, committing too early. The unaffected man avoids these traps by default. There is a powerful psychological illusion created by tempo control. Those who move slowly under pressure are perceived as confident and capable. Observers assume they have information others do not. This assumption increases deference. People wait for their signal. Even when this perception is inaccurate, it still shapes behavior. Tempo creates authority before authority is earned. Emotionally driven people hate this dynamic. They interpret slowness as arrogance or indifference. They attempt to provoke reaction to regain tempo control. They create urgency, drama, or moral pressure. The unaffected man recognizes this for what it is, an attempt to steal the pace. He does not comply. He remains unmoved. Over time, provocations lose effectiveness. Setting the tempo does not mean refusing action indefinitely. It means choosing when action occurs. When the unaffected man moves, it feels decisive because it is rare and intentional. Others sense this. They respond quickly when he finally speaks or acts. His delayed responses carry more weight because they are not diluted by constant reaction. This control extends into leadership. Leaders who allow emotions in the room to dictate pace become reactive managers. They chase problems instead of shaping direction. The unaffected leader sets tempo through composure. He does not let urgency become contagion. He absorbs pressure without transmitting it. This containment stabilizes the group and reinforces his authority. Most men live at the mercy of emotional clocks that are not their own. They respond to messages instantly. They argue immediately. They decide under pressure. They believe responsiveness equals effectiveness. In truth, it often equals vulnerability. The unaffected man reclaims time as a strategic resource. He uses it to think, observe, and wait. Tempo is invisible power. It is rarely acknowledged, but always felt. Those who control it do not announce dominance. They experience it indirectly through others' impatience, mistakes, and concessions. The unaffected man understands that slowing down does not mean falling behind. It means forcing others to move on your terms. When you are unaffected, you do not chase the moment. You let the moment come to you, and when it does, you are ready. 7. Self-mastery comes before outer control. No man can control his environment, his rivals, or his circumstances if he is ruled by his own impulses. This is not philosophy, it is mechanics. Power flows outward only after it is secured inward. Those who attempt to dominate others without first mastering themselves become unstable, reactive, and ultimately predictable. Their authority collapses the moment pressure appears. Most men confuse self-mastery with suppression. They believe controlling themselves means silencing emotion or denying desire. This misunderstanding leads to failure. Suppressed emotion leaks through behavior. It appears as passive aggression, resentment, or sudden outbursts. True self-mastery is not denial, it is regulation. It is the ability to experience impulse without obeying it. The world constantly invites you to react. Insults provoke ego, delays provoke impatience, disrespect provokes anger, temptation provokes indulgence. Each provocation is a test of sovereignty. If you react automatically, sovereignty is lost. You may win the moment, but you lose control over yourself. And once self-control is gone, external control becomes illusion. Men who lack self-mastery believe they are responding to others. In reality, they are responding to their own emotions. Their behavior is driven, not chosen. This makes them easy to manipulate. Anyone who can trigger emotion can dictate behavior. Self-mastery closes this access point. It makes you difficult to move because you no longer move on command. Self-mastery also creates consistency under pressure. When circumstances change, emotionally driven men change with them. They become volatile. One day calm, the next aggressive. One moment confident, the next defensive. This instability weakens influence. People cannot rely on someone whose internal state dictates their behavior. The self-mastered man remains steady regardless of emotional weather. This steadiness is often mistaken for lack of passion. In truth, it is contained intensity. The self-mastered man chooses when to release force and when to withhold it. He does not waste energy on every irritation. He preserves strength for moments that matter. This selectivity makes his actions more impactful. When he moves, it is felt. Self-mastery also reshapes how others treat you. People instinctively test boundaries to see how much control they have. When they encounter emotional resistance instead of reaction, testing stops. Respect emerges, not admiration, respect. The recognition that access to you is limited and must be earned. There is a hidden cost to emotional reactivity that most men never calculate. Each reaction reinforces the habit of impulsiveness. Over time, impulse becomes identity. The man begins to see himself as someone who cannot help but react. This belief becomes self-fulfilling. Self-mastery breaks this cycle by inserting choice between feeling and action. Choice is power in its purest form. Outer control requires credibility. Credibility requires reliability. Reliability requires self-mastery. People follow those who can regulate themselves because regulation signals competence. Even enemies respect those who do not lose composure. Composure under pressure suggests depth of preparation and confidence in outcome. Self-mastery also protects you from exhaustion. Emotional reactivity is draining. It keeps the nervous system in constant activation. The self-mastered man conserves energy by refusing unnecessary emotional expenditure. This conservation allows long-term endurance. Power is not about bursts of intensity. It is about sustainability. Many men chase dominance through force, intimidation, or performance. These methods work briefly and then collapse. Self-mastery works quietly and compounds. It does not rely on others' fear or approval. It relies on internal order. Internal order creates external influence naturally. The man who masters himself does not need to prove strength. He does not need to win every exchange. He does not need to correct every insult. His control is evident in what he ignores. This restraint unsettles others because it cannot be challenged directly. There is nothing to fight. Self-mastery is the foundation of every other lesson you have heard. Without it, emotional control fails. Indifference becomes fragile. Unpredictability becomes chaos. Detachment becomes apathy. With it, everything aligns. Your reactions become responses. Your silence becomes weight. Your presence becomes authority. If you seek to remain unaffected, begin here. Not by changing others, but by disciplining yourself. The man who governs his inner world does not need to conquer the outer one. It will adjust around him. Understand this without illusion. Remaining unaffected is not about appearing calm or adopting a detached posture. It is about refusing to be governed by forces outside your control. The world will always attempt to move you emotionally because emotion is the easiest handle on human behavior. Those who can pull your reactions can pull your decisions. This is why mastery begins with restraint. The unaffected man does not chase peace. He enforces order within himself. From that order comes clarity. From clarity comes timing. From timing comes advantage. He is not slow because he is uncertain. He is slow because he sees more than others do. While others react to surface events, he observes underlying patterns. While others burn energy trying to be heard, he listens and accumulates leverage. Power does not announce itself through noise or force. It reveals itself through composure under pressure. The man who remains unmoved by provocation, delay, or insult silently declares independence from emotional manipulation. This independence makes him difficult to threaten and impossible to rush. People adjust around him because he does not adjust to them. Do not misunderstand this path. Remaining unaffected does not make you passive, it makes you selective. You still act, but only when action serves your position. You still speak, but only when words carry weight. You still feel, but you do not surrender control to feeling. This discipline is rare because it is uncomfortable. It requires patience, silence, and the willingness to let others misunderstand you. Most men will never master this because they confuse reaction with strength and expression with honesty. They give themselves away cheaply. The unaffected man does not. He understands that control of self precedes control of circumstance. When you stop reacting, the world does not stop moving. It simply stops moving you. This is why unreactive people are the most dangerous, not because they seek dominance, but because they are no longer governed by impulse. And a man who cannot be governed is a man who cannot be controlled.